Hello everybody, Donnie here, and welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. I hope all of you are doing well and fine today. We're going to dive right into this. This is actually the continuation of the previous two stories. Update. Am I the a-hole for wanting to divorce my postpartum wife? Original post. It's stupid to think that I'm at this point, but here I am. My soon-to-be ex-wife, 28 female, and I, 29 male, have wanted kids for years and were thrilled when she finally got pregnant last year. From day one, I wanted to be the most supportive husband and future father that I could be. Her father was never involved in her life. I used to work as a tech in labor and delivery, and my brother, to put it kindly, is not the most involved father. I saw too many problems up close when it came to lacking husbands, and I would be damned before I made the same mistakes. The problem is roughly 4 weeks into her pregnancy, everything started going downhill. She stopped wanting sex. Fair enough. Hormones and stress make up that problem, and I went full stop. But then she didn't want any physical interaction at all. No cuddling, no kissing, slowly becoming more and more distant. Her eating constantly changed, and she was terrible about it. She would demand that I get her something all day, then the moment I give it to her, she wants something else, screaming at me. Okay, again, hormonal issues, I get it, no problem. She never let me go to any appointments, no groups she went to, spent more time away. She became more cold and bitter, constantly angry at me. This went on for months. Slapped me a couple of times when I forgot one of her dozens of tasks that she assigned me during the day. Stopped doing anything for the house for a month into the pregnancy. Sure, she's pregnant. I get it. Moving around is hard, but she wouldn't even do laundry for about 4 weeks in, and by 5 weeks, I did everything. I'm also the primary source of income. I barely sleep. I'm running on fumes. Made me sleep in the guest room. Would always try and pick fights. I never once raised my voice, my hand, or my tone. I sat there and constantly mentally reminded myself this isn't her, and this would all be worth it. I'm not sure about that. She didn't want me to make any baby decisions. No name, no work on the nursery, nothing. 1 month before she delivered, she yelled about how effing useless I am and how I don't do anything and that she's staying with her mother. Okay. She didn't let me get her anything, come check on her, threatened to divorce me, and get a restraining order if I even called her. Well, a couple of months back, I found out about the birth of my son from a Facebook post. She posted it with her mother and some family. It effing broke me. I tried to go to the hospital and visit. They had security kick me out. Gee, and he's the father. After months of outright hatred, anger, and abuse thrown at me 24/7, I effing had it. It's about time, my friend. Odds are I'm not even on the birth certificate. I opened a new account and all my deposits go there. I took half out of her joint account. She never bought baby stuff ahead of time. Who knows what that money was going towards? So now that she has to buy supplies for her son, she's used up every cent. I've gotten a lawyer. The house is mine. I'm the only one who spent money on it anyway. I've sent the rest of her stuff to her mother's house. I'm demanding a paternity test. Good for you. I'm not spending another damn cent until I get verification it's my son. I'm absolutely divorcing her. She chose the stay-at-home life. If she cheated, she's screwed. Her mother has money for a couple of weeks' stay, not even close to enough for full-time support. If he is my son, I will absolutely be getting my rights as a father for a relationship. Last week, my soon-to-be ex called. She was practically hyperventilating. She wanted to come home. She was crying how it was all a mistake. She's not staying with her mother. She's at a friend's house. She wants to come home. She wants our son to have his father. I told her I don't effing believe he's even my son. Why the F would she pull this shit if he is? Show me a paternity test and I'll do everything I can for him and him only. She wants to meet me tomorrow at a park so that I can talk to her. I said sure, so I can finally say everything that I should have said months ago to her face. My parents are hoping we can make up, but they absolutely understand if I won't. My brother is a deadbeat jackass, so I don't care what he has to say, but my sister thinks that I should at least hear her out. Well, maybe hear her out, but I would stick to my guns and divorce her. Now for the comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, but please meet her in a public place, preferably with security cameras. Do not meet her alone. Really good advice. I would stick with that. She would hint that she's not comfortable and he would behave, but 5 minutes later, he starts with his usual. Buddy, even as a girl, if I saw a guy do this to my friend, I would say, hey, didn't she say that she was uncomfortable with you doing this? The other thing that you could have done was start getting handsy with the guy friend and see how he liked it. This person says, second and third this. Might also be worth taking a couple of friends along with you to observe from a distance. Another really good idea. I don't know. This has really upset me. I hope you're okay. She's been physically and mentally abusing you for months. OP says, noted. I've decided that sometime in the next 24 hours, we will meet at a public park with my sister recording the conversation. My wife has agreed to this. And then this person says, please talk to her about getting into therapy for her mental health. If she snaps so fast, it could be potentially dangerous for the baby. Yes, it could be. It takes just one tiny moment to snap and shake a baby, leaving it disabled or worse. She needs to learn to just step out for a few minutes when she gets angry, putting baby in a safe place like a crib with nothing but the mattress in it, and recollect herself instead of lashing out. People who hit their partners sadly also have a higher chance of shaking a baby. And then this person also says, 11 days ago I witnessed the personality of a 26-year-old shatter. I took her to a hospital for a psych evaluation. She was involuntarily committed. It took less than 1 year to get her to a breaking point. My daughter is devastated her friend is so sick. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I can't imagine seeing her every day while her personality changed. She is a danger to herself and others and apparently has been dangerous for months. The point is, only a professional trained in psychological illnesses can diagnose and treat complex and long-lasting issues such as this. Your pain is absolutely valid and needs to be acknowledged. You too should consider therapy to deal with what has happened to you in the last year. Everyone recommending you meet her in a public place is a good idea if that's what you want to do. Personally, I think speaking to an attorney as a first step to map out what you should do is the best idea. I would tell them what you went through and what the marriage was like before she changed so drastically. Ask about the possibility she has of a mental illness and what to do if that's what's happened. If she's mentally ill, it's critical that she be evaluated. She could be a dangerous to not only the infant, herself, and you, but everyone else as well. If she refuses an evaluation, there's a huge possibility she's conning you and you'll quickly find out. Tell them you want a paternity test. If it's your baby, you need to establish your rights immediately. Bonding is so critical for fathers too. No matter what you discover, you have every right to divorce regardless of what everyone else says. You have suffered through permanent damage and might want to consider therapy. I'm incredibly sad for all of you. I hope you heal from this pain. I hope you find peace in your life, and one day you're happy again. Definitely not the a-hole. Now for the update. I had to speed up the process of actually talking to her since the story spread quickly around the internet, inevitably reaching someone involved with friends or family, and now way more people I personally know are getting the details that I'm comfortable with. Oh well, my bad, LOL. Before I ended up chatting with her, I opened up to my parents and sister about what was happening in detail. My parents were flustered at me hiding the more unsavory details, to say the least, and were probably going to be checking up on me daily for the rest of the year to make sure that I'm okay. My sister would probably have to be held back from thrashing her, so I had to get a friend to help with the chat since my sister would not be able to contain herself. So basically, within hours of the story going into the digital stratosphere, I called my wife back as quickly as I could to finally sit down and talk. We chose a local park this morning, and I had a friend of mine record the conversation from beginning to end. I was basically ready to hear the generic affair story and get out of Dodge, but of course it got very complicated. We met at a section with picnic tables and picked one as far away from other people to avoid them getting wrapped up in any awkwardness. She looked terrible, haggard, stressed, and thankfully without the baby. She tried to have the big emotional chat and whatnot. I was tearing up or acting like the hardened badass. I frankly was wanting to figure out what this was all for. I didn't even get to ask the question before the floodgates spilled. I'm going to attempt to relay this story as best as I can, because even looking back on the recording, it's a mess. But also, it's because I don't 100% believe it, so fair warning, it could all be fake. This all started with her mother. As I said before, my wife's father was absent. He started off well, having 2 sons with her mother before Herm. When her mother got pregnant with her father went from being in the picture, perfect guy, he was at first, and slowly changed into a negligent, abusive, unfaithful, and unsupportive jackass, ending with him disappearing when her mother was delivering. He's been in and out of prison ever since. No one knows what he did. The impression her mother always gave was a strong, resilient woman who withstood anything life threw at her and did anything for her kids. She was claimed to be in therapy for years. In reality, she has managed to conceal a deep hatred for men outside of her sons. But, according to my wife, there was favoritism towards her. My wife also found out she stopped therapy almost a decade ago, but never told anyone. Her mother seemed to always have some slight against me, and now I know why. She was never hostile, but certainly wasn't warm to me, and hearing about her secret hatred, I kind of knew where this was going. Roughly about a half a year before she got pregnant, my mother-in-law slowly began sowing seeds of doubt and bitterness into my wife. Apparently, she had a full mental breakdown. She told her about me staying late at work, possibly hiding an affair, or that myself providing majority of the income, setting her up for a hard divorce. Everything my mother-in-law's husband did to her, she convinced my wife I would do to her, as she pumped this poison into her for months. My wife always idolized her mother, and compounding that with anxiety she suffered from for years, she dove in deep. As soon as she got pregnant, like on the dot, she fell into a mental hole within days, and that's when her mother got a hold of her again. Hearing about her pregnancy apparently triggered something fierce in my mother-in-law, and it spiraled from there. She had my wife fully convinced it was happening again. Every single thing my wife did to hurt me was the behest of my mother-in-law. Combined with pregnancy hormones, an undiagnosed mental illness she claims to have, no confirmation, and stress, she completely lost her mind. She 100% believed I would bail, so she was punishing me first, culminating in her moving in with her mother and leaving me out of the birth. While I was sending the papers and started the divorce proceedings, she kicked into full-blown postpartum depression. And when her mother finally got her, when she finally beat me, which I guess was her victory over her ex, did I mention she's effing crazy? Oh yeah, sounds like it. She had no more use of my wife, the family involved in the birth, including my mother-in-law's sister and my wife's brothers. While my mother-in-law and her sister knew what was going on, my brother-in-laws got fed the BS narrative my mother-in-law spun. When my mother-in-law was done with her plan, the entire facade came down and my brother-in-laws found out everything upon questioning my wife. They were horrified. Needless to say, postpartum, facing a very grueling divorce on her side, no longer welcome in our home, and having done everything to alienate me from my son at the behest of a broken lunatic, reality hit her like a truck. She's torched her entire life because her mother is a broken shell of a human who used her to enact her own sense of justice. The very mother who washed her hands of her after she got what she wanted. Or at least this is the story that she gave me. Frankly, there are many holes in her story. The starting point of the pattern of abuse, the claims of who was involved in the delivery, me being absent from appointments, the friend who she confirmed is female, she's staying with, and of course my alleged son's paternity. It seems way too effing crazy to be made up. Who the hell would go to the effort to make this up, facing what she's been facing? As soon as she finished, she said that she's setting up a paternity test and gave me the info I need. Within luck, it should be done in roughly a week or so once I do my part. She gave the most sincere apologies any human being has ever given. She begged for another chance. I was frankly too stunned to say anything, so she left and promised to call soon. I don't think I could give her another chance. I don't think I can ever risk anything like this again. Goodness, I'm still hoping that she's just being a cheating psycho and spinning a sympathy story to try and throw me off, because this got way too complicated. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter she is welcome to go live with her mother full time because I won't get rid of my Harry Potter themed bookcase? Plus update. Original post. I'm having a bit of a family drama and need a reality check about if I'm being unreasonable here. I really need the perspective of LGBT plus sensitive individuals because the drama surrounds transphobia perpetuated by J.K. Rowling. My stepdaughter is going through a pretty tough time. The last couple of years have been really rough on her. She's been dealing with bullying at school, being held back a year, not getting along with her mom's new husband, self-harm, and identity issues. Lots of questioning of her sexuality and gender. We've been working on getting a good mental health team of doctors and therapists to help her navigate all this. Please know we aren't throwing her to the wolves or internet to deal with it all by herself. I've been in her life since she was 7. We've always had a pretty good, though not terribly close relationship. I have not taken on a parental role, but have always tried to make myself available to her. Until last year, her mom had primary custody and her dad had weekends with alternating holidays. Last year, due to the issues with her school and mom's house, my stepdaughter requested that custody arrangements be changed. Since she came to live with my husband and I full time, there has been quite a bit of friction between the two of us. One of the biggest points of contention is my Harry Potter fandom, particularly the bookcase and my supposed transphobia, due to my apparently wrong stance when it comes to politics and regarding trans issues in our country. I grew up in the heyday. So many of my childhood and teen memories are tied to the franchise. My friends and I were all really into it. We attend midnight book releases dressed up in costume for movie releases, through HP-themed parties when we wanted to hang out, etc. In many ways, it shaped the course of our entire lives. Those same friends and I joined our high school's botany club because of herbology. That unlocked a lifelong passion of mine in my career as working with plants. Over the years, I've collected quite a bit of memorabilia, many of which are gifts. They have always been displayed on my most prized possession, a monstrously large custom bookcase my grandfather, a former woodworker, built for me when I was a teenager. I love this thing. The shelves are live-edge black walnut slabs. All around the casing, my grandpa carved beautiful HP-themed imagery. Owls, cauldrons, shooting stars, lightning bolts, an adorable little rat at the bottom, and nibble marks from said rat, etc. It's both sentimental and valuable. The slabs of walnut for the shelves alone would be pushing $1,000, let alone attempting to value the hand-carved craftsmanship. The bookcase has always been proudly displayed in my home. It currently lives in our living room. During one of her family therapy sessions, my stepdaughter expressed that seeing my HP shelf made her feel really uncomfortable because of the author, and that she was really disappointed in me and her father for being so supportive of a bigot. I apologized for making her feel uncomfortable in her home and said that I would take down the HP stuff. So I packed up all the HP-themed merch off the shelves, made sure I didn't have the books or anything on display that said Harry Potter anywhere. I bought some LED grow lights and converted the bookcase into a plant shelf to display the succulents. I bought some witchy but not overly Harry Potter-themed pots for the little guys so they'd go with the shelf. This was not acceptable of a compromise for my stepdaughter and has remained a point of contention, with my stepdaughter hurling that I and we, referring to my husband, broke a promise by saying that we would get rid of the Harry Potter stuff. I tried to explain to my stepdaughter that while I do not agree with J.K. Rowling's political stance at all, the media has a special place in my heart because of my childhood association with it, and that the shelf was very important to me because it was a gift from my grandpa. But she maintains that none of that should matter because in 2024, it is nothing but a symbol of transphobia and hate. At first, my husband was supportive of me and my desire to keep my bookcase, but lately the arguments are wearing on him, and he asked me if I would consider keeping it in the living room, suggesting we rent a storage unit to house it in. After the most recent blow-up about it, I kind of lost my temper. I didn't yell or anything, but I did very firmly tell my stepdaughter that this is my home and my bookshelf stays, and if it's such a big problem for her, she can always go back and live with her mother. I agree with that 100%. I knew it was a low blow pretty much as soon as I said it. I quickly apologized, but it was out there. My stepdaughter has been on an emotional downward spiral. My husband and I have been arguing almost nonstop. I think it's mostly stress because he is at his wit's end with how to help his daughter, but he is becoming pretty mean and nasty towards me, telling me to grow up and just get rid of the effing bookcase. I know I was a dick by saying to my stepdaughter could always go back to live with her mom, and I suspect that will be the main topic at hand in our next family therapy session. But am I really being unreasonable in wanting to keep my beloved bookcase? Edit. Thank you, everyone. Honestly, thank you for those who shared their insight and advice, and thank you to the people who have asked me hard questions that made me think, especially those who asked what matters more, a bookcase or my child. I've been reflecting really hard on what my bookcase means to me and why it's so important. I'm hitting some deep truths I don't think I was ready to recognize about how I really feel about my relationship with my stepdaughter. All in all, I think we just need to shelf some things until our next therapy session. I'll see myself out. Now for the update. Someone asked if I could update this situation, and I'll try my best to summarize the past several weeks. My husband and I spoke about the situation. He apologized for being snappish with me and agreed that SD was being unreasonable about the bookcase. He ultimately agreed to back me about it, and he and I are just as tight as we have ever been. I once again apologized to my stepdaughter for the remark I said out of frustration about her moving back with her mom. I reiterated that our home is her home too, and she is always welcome here, that even though families sometimes fight and disagree, we are family. But the general argument about HP, J.K. Rowling, and my bookcase continued to escalate for a couple of weeks. And then the discontent about that started to bleed over into complaints about me. She started to be more disrespectful and sarcastic. During all of this, we are still attending her family therapy sessions. Our therapist was pretty certain that the misbehavior was anxiety related and didn't suggest that we give in to the demands to have the bookcase removed and wanted to just keep working on things the way that we have been. Well, stepdaughter's disrespectful attitude hit a climax. She called me the C word and some other choice things within my husband's earshot. My husband honestly kind of lost it on her. I don't think I have ever seen him that angry before. He was bright red and vein-popping angry as he marched her into her room and declared, "You will not speak to my wife in such a way." This was probably the first time my stepdaughter has ever seen her dad angry, let alone anger directed at her. It left her pretty shook, like that was her rock bottom. We ended up needing to do a couple emergency session with her counselor because there was concern about her relapsing with some self-destructive issues that she's been working on. But that incident led us to having a breakthrough. Her counselor invited my husband and I into one of her sessions, and she had a bit of a breakdown. Basically, she was dealing with a lot of existential dread and a lot of fear due to politics and it being an election year. That ended up being an excellent opening for us to bond. This is going to sound silly, but I was able to pull up my social media timelines back to 2016, and I showed her some of the things that I had written or shared with me back then. She was able to see that I shared a lot of the same fears that she has. So we have all had some really big talks about things like feeling helpless when things are out of your control, about disengaging from the media machine, from your own mental health, etc. Things have been on the upswing ever since. Before she left for her mom's this past weekend, she even gave me a Mother's Day gift, an adorable little planner that says, "Caution, mandrakes." I love it. I put one of my favorite props in it, and it is in front and center on the bookcase now. Story 3. Am I, 28 female, pregnant with twins, crazy for feeling like my husband, 30 male, is gaslighting and not supporting my thoughts on rehoming our dog, 2.5 months, who has bitten multiple times. My husband, 30 male, and I, 28 female, have gotten our second retriever, who was already 75 pounds at 9 months, living in a small apartment with a full-time nursing student. She said that she just can't give him the life he needs because of school and where she lives. We took him in. We started socializing him early on, and I worked on training. I work from home so I can take him training, feeding, and providing attention to him. He had bit me a handful of times because he didn't want to listen when I told him to stop or leave it, not touching him. Each time he had bitten me, my husband questions me and asks, "What are you doing? Why would he bite you?" Or, "Don't discipline him. You know he's going to bite." Never does he ask if I'm okay or come and handle the situation, but instead says dismissive things like it's my fault. We had taken him to the beach once and he was sitting with me on the beach while my husband was in the ocean. A toddler and a dad came up to ask if they could pet him. I said yes. The next thing I know, he bites the kid. I was mortified and anxious, asked if he's okay, and they quickly walked away. I told my husband and he was not bothered by it. After that, anytime we go on vacation, I drop him off at a boarding. One of the places, after watching him a few times, had told me they are happy to watch our one dog, but they can't watch him. This boarding place is not only boarding, but a board and train facility who is highly recommended in our community. I'm embarrassed. He continues to bite and snap, and my husband continues to dismiss and question me like, "Well, why didn't the dad come and get me when he bit his child?" Or, "Yeah, right. Why would they watch one of our dogs and not him?" I had multiple times told him I'm concerned about our safety because it's unpredictable and it's hard to train. Mind you, I'm the one that stays at home and works full-time for the government, works as a pet sitter as a side hustle, manages the home, fixes things, and calls professionals out when needed. The pets, the vacations, and the finances. My husband just graduated medical school, so he wasn't making money, and even now I manage the finances. My husband and I have advanced degrees, but with him having been in medical school and now residency, I have the most flexibility to take care of basically everything. All I'm asking for in my marriage is understanding, sympathy, and support. Not that we have to agree on everything. I've been very unhappy in my own house and anxious when guests come over, especially the little ones or pregnant friends. I say it's time to get rid of the dog, I think. I'm tired of my husband saying his experience with him is different and doesn't see why I don't want him. As a side note, my husband is like this with every me issue and dismisses toxic concerning behavior from our dog and his mom. I was exhausted of his responses to everything serious and saying it's fine or questioning me that I attempted S. After my attempt, I tried telling my husband that we need to get him a behaviorist and or training. I had called several places and got quotes. He told me and our therapist that he doesn't want to spend money on it, really my money, and that we can do it ourselves, and he honestly doesn't think he needs training. My goodness, this guy's blind. I bit the bullet and paid for training because my husband is so desperate to keep him. Literally, at the first assessment, the trainer said, "I could see why you would be concerned. You have to decide what you want. Once you decide to start a family, you have to think about what is best. He is a pretty dog, and sure, he will quickly find a home if you choose to do that. You're not a bad person for considering to rehome him." My mom tried talking to him about the dog, and my mom's perspective is that came off as this is a her problem, and I don't see the issue. Even recently, now that I'm pregnant, his brothers have all agreed that our dog is a lot and that they all have to consider the safety of their babies. My husband has told me you don't need to resent him or how I'll be a bad mom because I have favorites. This week, my husband was bitten for the first time and he has drawn blood. My husband, who is a doctor, didn't want to go get stitches from his work, so I superglued his wound. He hasn't told any of his friends, family, or his doctor friends. He continues to say, yeah, it's a concern, but I don't think he will bite our children. Oh my gosh. And how it was his fault that he had gotten bitten in the first place. I'm just tired of how my husband doesn't think that this dog is a concern, that actually he is fine and doesn't need help, and that he makes multiple comments about how I will be as a mother to my kids. I have tried and done everything, and it feels like my husband picks the dog over my mental health, the safety of our family, and honestly, what is best for our dog before he is put down. Am I overreacting? How I treat my one dog versus my other animals will make me a bad parent? Am I delusional and should continue to give our dog a chance? Just need some perspective. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.